In the village of Agbarho, aptly named, "Let's Grow Together," prosperity flourished like the fertile soil beneath its feet. The kingdom is ruled by a compassionate monarch named King Efi alongside his esteemed queen, Ejiro. Their abode was graced by a son named Ochuko, a paragon of virtue at the age of 25. Prince Ochuko's kindness was legendary, his compassion extending to the impoverished, the infirm, and the toiling farmers of the land. His noble deeds earned him the admiration of all who dwelled within the village, especially the young maidens who whispered his praises with reverence. Prince Ochuko's wealth was matched only by his humility, never allowing material riches to overshadow his innate goodness. He shared his affections generously, embracing both the prosperous and the destitute with equal warmth. Yet, despite his sterling character, Prince Ochuko harbored doubts when King F and Queen Ejiro broached the subject of marriage. Though of age, he felt unprepared for such a significant commitment. To his parents' urging, he confessed his lack of romantic attachment, adamant that he could not fathom marrying without love. Beseeching them for understanding, he withdrew, his heart heavy with uncertainty. Once more, the king and queen broached the subject with the prince, this time discussing the breathtakingly beautiful maiden from the village named Oak. She hailed from a family of considerable wealth, her father being one of the most affluent merchants in the village. The king and queen persuaded their son to make an effort to acquaint himself with the affluent young woman, emphasizing the potential benefits of the match for both their family and the kingdom. They spoke of the shared values and aspirations that could unite them, urging Prince Ochuko to approach the situation with an open mind and heart. The royal family convenes with the most influential merchants of Agbarho, hoping to find a match for Prince Ochuko. Merchant Jacob said, "Your Majesty, we are honored by your presence. We have heard of your desire to find a bride for Prince Ochuko." Merchant Oki said, "Indeed, we have many eligible daughters who would make fine queens." Emubo, the stunning maiden among the merchant's daughters, possessed a beauty that captivated all who beheld her. Her allure was such that every man who caught sight of her turned in admiration. Even the king himself couldn't deny her radiance, acknowledging her beauty amidst the gathered merchants. Yet, amidst the splendor of her appearance, there lay a deeper truth echoed by the king's words, a profound message that transcended mere physical attraction. As the king addressed the merchants, expressing gratitude for their hospitality, he imparted a timeless wisdom, that true union should be founded upon love. In this simple yet profound statement, he underscored the essence of genuine connection, emphasizing the importance of a bond that extends beyond superficial appearances. Emubo, with her unparalleled beauty, carried herself with an air of confidence and certainty. She had long harbored the belief that she was the most enchanting of all the maidens, and she nursed the idea in her heart that she would inevitably capture the attention of the prince. Despite the lack of notice from the prince thus far, Emubo's determination only grew stronger with each passing day. In her mind, it was inconceivable that the prince could overlook her radiant allure. She adorned herself with even greater care, ensuring that every aspect of her appearance exuded an irresistible charm. Her demeanor became more alluring, her laughter more melodious, as she sought to draw the prince's gaze towards her. Prince Ochuko, lost in thoughts of serving the sick and the poor, takes a morning stroll by the stream in the village. He notices a maiden, thin and disheveled, crying nearby. Intrigued, he approaches her with compassion. "Why do you weep, maiden? Can I help you?" The maiden, overwhelmed by the presence of royalty, keeps her eyes downcast, feeling unworthy to look upon the prince. She remains silent, only to abruptly stand and flee upon meeting his gaze. The prince, struck by her mysterious allure and the depths of her eyes, stands mesmerized for a moment, captivated by her fleeting presence. What beauty, what grace! Her eyes held a depth that touched my soul like no other. As Prince Ochuko walks, he encounters Emubo, who radiates with anticipation at the prospect of meeting her supposed future husband. Despite his efforts to maintain composure, his emotions betray him as he passes her. Emubo, disappointed by the prince's distant demeanor, retreats to her home, troubled by the realization that the prince does not seem to share her feelings. Prince Ochuko's restlessness grew, prompting him to confide in one of his palace guards about the mysterious maiden he had seen by the stream. Despite his efforts to describe her, the guard could offer no assistance. The prince's appetite waned, and the queen, sensing something amiss, observed his withdrawn demeanor, yet he refused to confide in anyone. He was consumed by thoughts of the maiden's innocence and vulnerability, pondering how he could assist her. Night descended, but sleep eluded Prince Ochuko. He paced his chamber, grappling with his thoughts. Morning brought no respite as he prepared early for his daily walk by the stream, a routine he maintained for 7 consecutive days without sighting the maiden. The king and queen noted his subdued state with concern, witnessing his withdrawal from his usual cheerful self. Meanwhile, Emubo, oblivious to the prince's inner turmoil, visited him, attempting to engage him in conversation to no avail. Bewildered by his lack of interest, she resolved not to be spurned, determined to win his affection. Unyielding in his quest, Prince Ochuko persisted with his morning walks, vowing to continue until he found the elusive maiden. One evening, as he passed through the village square, he observed maidens rehearsing for an upcoming festival under Emubo's supervision. Unaware of his search, Emubo danced to capture his attention, unaware that his focus was elsewhere. Amidst the crowd, the prince spotted someone who quickly vanished, leaving him convinced it was the maiden he sought. Despite his efforts to pursue her, she disappeared into the crowd, and the prince felt confused and upset. He searched everywhere for the mystery maiden but couldn't find her. Meanwhile, Emubo felt mad that the prince didn't notice her and walked away. Suddenly, the king got sick, and there was more pressure on the prince to get married. The king called him to his sickbed and talked about how important it was for him to find a wife. The prince breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by the thought of losing his father, the king, and the idea of marrying someone he doesn't love. His father consoles him, expressing understanding and reassurance that love can develop over time in a marriage. King, son, I know you may not love Emubo now, but love can grow in a marriage. The prince decides to confide in his father about his search for the mystery maiden, explaining his efforts to find her but with no success. The king suggests conducting a thorough search of every home in the village. The prince decided he would visit every house in the village to find the mystery maiden. This was a secret plan only the royal family knew. But then, the town crier announced to everyone that the prince would visit every house, hoping to find a maiden he liked. Days passed, and the prince visited every home in the village, hoping to find his mystery maiden, but he didn't have any luck. As the prince continues his search, he becomes increasingly despondent, crying himself to sleep every night, fearing he will never find the mystery maiden. Doubts plague his mind, wondering if she was real or just a figment of his imagination. Despite his doubts, the prince persists in searching every house in the village. As they reach the final home, they encounter a frail, elderly woman. Disheartened and frustrated, the prince's emotions overwhelm him, and he storms out without a word, consumed by anger and sadness. Back in his chambers, the prince is overcome with grief and despair. Thoughts of marrying Emubo torment him as he cries uncontrollably. He withdraws from the world, refusing to eat, bathe, or entertain visitors, consumed by his emotional turmoil. Days pass, and the prince, unable to find his mystery maiden, resigns himself to marrying Emubo. He informs his father, the king, who then arranges for the marriage proposal to be sent to Emubo's father. Emubo is elated upon hearing the news, unable to contain her joy and boasting about her upcoming marriage to anyone who will listen. With the impending marriage, Emubo's demeanor shifts drastically. She becomes arrogant and disrespectful towards others, reveling in her imminent status as the prince's bride. Meanwhile, the prince grapples with the daunting prospect of marrying someone he doesn't love but agrees to do so out of respect for his parents. Preparations for the wedding are in full swing, with the village bustling with activity. Cows and chickens are purchased in large quantities for the feast, and children excitedly spread the news of the prince's impending marriage, likening the event to the grandeur of the yearly festival. In the last home visited by the prince, the old frail lady speaks to her granddaughter, Onomey. She shares rumors circulating about the royal wedding, explaining how the prince had searched for a maiden he encountered by the stream. The old lady hints that the prince may not love his intended bride, Emubo, and had only agreed to marry her because of the sick king. Onomey, realizing she is the maiden the prince had been searching for, listens quietly as her grandmother continues. The old lady reflects on Onomey's kindness and resilience, suggesting that perhaps she is the one the prince truly seeks. Onomey, feeling unworthy due to her poverty and appearance, initially denies the possibility. Distraught and conflicted, Onomey flees her home and heads to the stream, where she encounters the prince, who commanded her to stay still and not move. Recognizing his authority, she freezes in place, unable to flee. The prince shouted for, "I found her, I found her." The prince, overjoyed at finding her, insists on taking her to the palace, showering her with questions and affection. He orders the queen's maidens to clean her up and prepare her for his chambers, eager to finally meet his mystery maiden. Onomey could not say a word. She was tongue-tied, not sure what to say and asking herself, "Why me?" In his chambers, the prince eagerly awaits the arrival of his mystery maiden. He paces back and forth, dressed in his finest royal attire, his heart pounding with excitement. He can't wait to meet her. The queen's maiden brings Onomey to the prince's chambers, marveling at his happiness after weeks of sadness. Food and drink are laid out for them, creating an intimate atmosphere for their meeting. Onomey is stunning, adorned in luxurious attire with gold jewelry, her beauty and smiles captivating the prince upon first sight. Despite the impending royal wedding, the prince's heart is drawn to Onomey, his joy palpable as he gazes upon her. Her elegance and radiance leave him in awe, filling his heart with a newfound happiness he has never experienced before. Onomey and the prince gaze at each other with love filling the air. Onomey, feeling shy and her heart racing, breaks the silence by pointing out that the prince doesn't even know her name. The prince apologizes for his rush and explains that he was afraid of losing her again, which is why he hurried things. They share a laugh, breaking the tension. The prince, admiring Onomey, makes a light-hearted comment about the stream being her crying spot. Onomey laughs, and the prince watches her with admiration, their bond growing stronger. Onomey shares her story with the prince, revealing how she lost her parents at a young age and her grandmother has been her caregiver. She explains how she works tirelessly to support them both but feels overwhelmed by life's challenges. She confides that the day the prince found her by the stream, she was contemplating ending her life but thought of her grandmother's love, which stopped her. This revelation brings tears to her eyes as she recalls the prince's timely intervention. With tears in his eyes, the prince gazes deeply into Onomey's eyes, pouring out his emotions. "Onomey," he begins, his voice trembling with sincerity, "from the moment I first set my eyes on you, I knew that you were the one for me. I promise to do everything in my power to keep you happy for as long as I live. Your pain will be mine to bear, and I will care for you always." With bated breath, he asks the question that will change their lives forever: "Will you marry me, Onomey?" Overwhelmed by the prince's heartfelt declaration and proposal, Onomey's eyes fill with tears of happiness. "Yes," she whispers, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you, my prince." In the warmth of the prince's chamber, surrounded by love and tenderness, they embrace, knowing that their future together is filled with promise and devotion. Rumors spread throughout the village about Onomey and the prince. When Emubo hears about it, she laughs sarcastically. "Onomey and the prince," she scoffs. "That ugly, poor, dirty maiden. Impossible." Determined to confront the prince, Emubo quickly dresses in her finest attire, adorns herself with expensive perfume and jewelry, and heads to the prince's chambers. Upon arriving at the prince's chambers, Emubo encounters the guards who refuse to let her in. She becomes rude and bossy, demanding entrance, but the guards stand firm, politely refusing her entry. Frustrated and confused, Emubo leaves the palace in tears, unsure of what is happening. Meanwhile, inside the prince's chambers, he and Onomey are oblivious to the commotion outside. Lost in their newfound love, they pay no heed to the outside world, completely focused on each other. The prince proudly introduces Onomey to his mother, the queen. She is amazed by the transformation in her son's mood and immediately takes a liking to Onomey. The queen welcomes her warmly into the family. "You are such a beautiful maiden," the queen said. "I can see you have brought sunshine into the life of my son." "Thank you, Onomey." Accompanied by the prince and a guard, Onomey is escorted home. Her presence and the prince's happiness capturing the attention of the stunned passers-by. Many could not recognize Onomey. The prince was beaming with smiles as he walked through the village with his maiden. Among the passers-by is one of Emubo's friends, who initially doesn't recognize Onomey. However, as she observes the prince and the maiden walking in the direction of Onomey's hut, she realizes who the beautiful maiden beside him must be. Shocked by the revelation, she watches on in disbelief. Emubo's friend is amazed by Onomey's beauty, never having seen her look so stunning before. She rushes to tell Emubo, who is both angry and heartbroken. Feeling shamed by the prince's actions, Emubo laments the disgrace brought upon her family. Meanwhile, at Onomey's hut, the prince respectfully greets the old frail lady and apologizes for his previous behavior. The lady forgives him, expressing happiness that the prince has found his true love. The guards leave behind food and gifts before they all departed. Emubo visits Onomey's home, shouting demands for Onomey to come out. When Onomey's grandmother intervenes, Emubo becomes disrespectful and pushes her to the floor. Onomey rushes out to assist her grandmother, commanding Emubo to leave. Shocked by Onomey's assertiveness, Emubo hastily retreats. Word spread like wildfire throughout the village, reaching the ears of the African prince. Without a moment's hesitation, he sprang into action, commanding his guards to fetch Onomey, the Afro-African maiden, and her African grandmother to the palace for urgent medical attention. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the palace gate swung open to admit the small entourage. Onomey's grandmother, weak and frail, was swiftly ushered into the palace infirmary, where skilled physicians and healers awaited her arrival. With gentle hands and compassionate hearts, the medical team attended to the elderly woman, administering soothing remedies and tender care. The African prince stood watch nearby, his brow furrowed with concern as he anxiously awaited news of her condition. Hours passed like an eternity, each moment weighed down by the uncertainty of the grandmother's fate. Yet, amidst the tension, there was a glimmer of hope as the skilled healers worked tirelessly to stabilize her condition. Finally, as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, a sigh of relief echoed through the palace halls. Onomey's grandmother's condition had improved, thanks to the swift and decisive action of the prince. With gratitude in his heart, the prince vowed to continue supporting Onomey and her grandmother, ensuring they received the care and attention they deserved. And as the sun rose higher in the sky, casting its warm rays upon the palace grounds, hope blossomed anew for Onomey and her beloved grandmother. The prince, after speaking with his father, brings peace offerings to Emubo's home. Emubo is initially excited, but her joy is short-lived when the prince announces he no longer wishes to marry her. Despite initial upset, Emubo's family accepts the peace offering, recognizing the lack of genuine love between Emubo and the prince. The royal wedding between Prince Ochuko and Onomey is rescheduled, filling the palace with jubilation and excitement. Their anticipated union becomes the topic of conversation in nearby and far-off villages alike, spreading joy far and wide. As preparations for the wedding unfold, the king's health begins to improve, adding to the joyous atmosphere. With each passing day, the anticipation grows, and the palace buzzes with activity in anticipation of the joyous celebration. As the wedding day arrives, the palace is adorned with decorations, and the air is filled with music and laughter. Friends, family, and dignitaries from near and far gather to witness the union of two hearts, united in love and happiness. Amidst the festivities, the king's improved health serves as a beacon of hope, a testament to the joy and love that fills the palace walls. And as the newlyweds exchange vows and seal their love with a kiss, the entire kingdom rejoices, celebrating the beginning of a new chapter filled with love, happiness, and prosperity. Onomey became pregnant, and as her pregnancy progressed, the prince showered her with love and care, ensuring her every need was met. Months later, their joy knew no bounds as they welcomed a set of twins into the world, a boy and a girl. The entire village erupted in celebration at the news of the twins' arrival. Music filled the air, and laughter echoed through the streets as friends and neighbors gathered to share in the joyous occasion. The palace was adorned with colorful decorations, and a feast fit for royalty was prepared to honor the new additions to the family. Amidst the festivities, the prince and Onomey basked in the love and warmth of their community, their hearts overflowing with gratitude for the precious gift of their children. As the sun set on the day of the twins' birth, the village came alive with song and dance, united in celebration of new life and the boundless blessings that the future held. Onomey's grandmother reveled in the joy of witnessing her great-grandchildren and the wonderful turn her life had taken. However, Tragedy struck months after the birth of Onomey's twins when her beloved grandmother passed away. Onomey was left heartbroken, her world shattered by the loss. In her time of grief, the prince stood by her side, offering comfort and solace. With no family left, Onomey found solace in the embrace of the king and queen, who welcomed her as their own daughter. Together, they forged a new family bond, finding strength and support in each other's love. Despite the trials they faced, they lived out their days in happiness and contentment, their hearts forever intertwined in a bond that could never be broken.